Maria Bettina Agata Cabais. Today, I will be presenting an important environmental policy in the Philippines, Presidential Decree Number 1586, issued in 1978 by then-President Ferdinand Marcos. This law established the Philippine Environmental Impact Statement System, or EIS system, which plays a key role in balancing development with environmental protection, background, and purpose. Presidential Decree 1586 was signed on June 11, 1978. At that time, environmental degradation was becoming a growing concern both locally and globally. The main purpose of this decree was to ensure that projects which could significantly affect the environment undergo a thorough review before they are allowed to proceed. This marked the beginning of formal environmental planning and impact assessment in the country. Why was Presidential Decree 1586 created? In the 1970s, the Philippines was pushing for industrial and infrastructure development, but many projects were causing deforestation, pollution, and displacement of communities. To address this, Presidential Decree 1586 was issued to institutionalize environmental safeguards, ensuring development doesn't come at the cost of ecosystem or human health. The Environmental Impact Assessment, or the EIA. The process of identifying and evaluating the consequences of human action on the environment and mitigating those consequences. Before a project begins, experts analyze: will it pollute the air or water? Will it destroy natural habitats or endangered species? Will it harm the health of livelihoods of nearby communities? This involves scientific studies, field surveys, and consultation with stakeholders, including local residents. Mitigating those consequences. Once potential environmental effects are known, the next step is to propose solutions. Changing the project design to avoid damage, installing pollution controls, reforesting areas affected by land clearing, relocating communities, or compensating them. These actions are called mitigation measures. They aim to reduce, avoid, or offset environmental harm. Why it is important? This process ensures that projects are sustainable, it don't harm the environment long term. Government agencies like the DENR can make informed decisions. Developers are held accountable for their impact. Communities have a say in developments that affect them. For example, before building a large hotel on a coastal area, the developer must assess risks to coral reefs, marine life, erosion, and local fishing communities. Then, they propose ways to manage sewage, reduce noise, and protect marine biodiversity. This is compiled into an Environmental Impact Statement, or the EIS, reviewed by the government before issuing an Environmental Compliance Certificate, or the ECC. In short, this process is about being responsible and proactive, making sure that human development doesn't come at the cost of environmental destruction. What does the Constitution say in the protection of our environment? The state shall protect and advance the right of the people to a balanced and healthful ecology in accord with the rhythm and harmony of nature. This constitutional provision declares that every Filipino has the right to live in a clean, safe, and sustainable environment. It recognizes that a healthy environment is essential for life, health, and well-being, and it obligates the government to ensure environmental protection and conservation. The state shall protect and advance. It is a duty of the government to take active steps to preserve the nature. The right of the people. Environmental protection is not just a policy, it's a human right. Balanced and healthful ecology. This includes clean air, water, soil, and thriving ecosystems. In accord with the rhythm and harmony of nature, humans must respect natural limits and cycles. Relevance of the Presidential Decree 1586 and the EIS system, Presidential Decree number 1586 and the Environmental Impact Statement system are mechanisms to fulfill this constitutional right by requiring environmental assessment and accountability before development. The government prevents environmental degradation, promotes sustainability, ensures that economic growth doesn't compromise future generations. What are the salient points of PD 1586? Policy declares as a state policy to attain and maintain a rational and orderly balance between socio-economic growth and environmental protection. Explanation. This statement outlines the main goal of Presidential Decree 1586. The government supports economic development such as buildings, industries, infrastructure, and businesses. But at the same time, it must protect the environment from the negative impacts of these activities. The key phrase here is rational and orderly balance, meaning development should not happen recklessly and environmental concerns should not be ignored. EIS system. All agencies and instrumentalities of the national government, including government-owned and controlled corporations, firms, and entities to undertake an EIA for all proposed projects and undertakings which significantly affect the quality of the environment. This provision means that every organization, public or private, that plans to carry out a project likely to impact the environment must first conduct an EIA. This is non-negotiable legal requirement under PD 1586. Who is covered by this? National government agencies, local government units, government-owned and controlled corporation, private companies or developers, joint ventures or public-private partnership. What kind of projects? Any projects that could significantly affect the environment such as infrastructure, energy, tourism, mining and quarrying, manufacturing and processing facilities, housing developments. Their obligation. Before starting these projects, the component must conduct an environmental impact assessment or the EIA, submit an environmental impact statement or the EIS, secure an environmental compliance certificate or the ECC from the DNR. Without this process, the project is not legally allowed to proceed. Penalty provisions, fines or penalties for every violation of the conditions stipulated in the ECC and the commencing projects without ECC. Presidential Decree 1586, along with its implementing rules and regulations, sets penalties for individuals, companies, or government entities that begin a project without an ECC, violate the terms and conditions stated in the ECC, submit false or misleading information in their environmental impact statement. Examples of violation. Starting a construction or land clearing without an approved ECC, failing to implement the mitigation measures promised in the EIA, polluting air or water beyond the allowed limits, expanding or modifying the project without DENR clearance. Types of penalties. It can be monetary fines, can range from 50,000 to 200,000 per violation, depending on the severity and repetition of offenses. Number 2, suspension or closure of operations, cancellation of ECC, legal action or court cases under environmental laws. Why penalties matter? These penalty provisions help enforce accountability, discourage illegal or irresponsible development, and ensure the environmental protection measures are followed. Why it still matters today? In the face of climate change, biodiversity loss, and rapid urbanization, PD 1586 remains essential. It's not a perfect system, but it's one of the strongest tools we have to check unregulated development. Every Filipino benefits from a cleaner environment, so this law indirectly protects our air, water, forests, and even livelihoods. This decree remains very relevant today. It helps prevent projects that might harm the environment from being approved without safeguards. It also promotes sustainable development, ensuring that economic growth doesn't come at the expense of natural resources and public health. While PD 1586 is a strong legal tool, its implementation has faced some challenges over the years, such as delays in the review process, weak enforcement, and lack of public participation. That is why its implementing rules and regulations, or IRR, have been revised multiple times to improve transparency and efficiency. The hospitality and tourism sector often involves the construction of hotels, resorts, restaurants, and recreational facilities. Many of these are located in coastal, forested, or rural areas, which are often classified as environmentally critical areas or the ECAs under PD 1586. In summary, Presidential Decree No. 1586 created the framework for environmental impact assessments in the Philippines. It remains a cornerstone of the country's environmental policy, guiding how development projects are reviewed, approved, and monitored. As future professionals and responsible citizens, it is our duty to stay informed about environmental laws like this and to support efforts to protect our natural resources for future generations.
Good day, everyone, and today I'm going to discuss to you the Republic Act 7394. Consumer Act of the Philippines Republic Act 7394, Republic Act number 7394, known as the Consumer Act of the Philippines, was enacted on April 13, 1992 to safeguard consumer rights and promote fair trade practices in the country. It serves as the primary legal framework for consumer protection in the Philippines. Overview of the Consumer Act. The Act is divided into several titles, each addressing specific aspects of consumer protection. General provision defines key terms and establishes the scope of the Act. Deceptive, unfair, and unconscionable sales acts of practices prohibits misleading sales tactics and unfair business practices. Advertising and sales promotion regulates advertising to prevent false or misleading claims. Consumer credit transactions govern credit practices to ensure transparency and fairness. The National Consumer Affairs Council establishes a council to coordinate consumer protection efforts. Consumer complaints outlines procedures for addressing consumer grievances. Transitory and final provisions provides for the implementation and effectivity of the Act. Key provisions. Consumer rights affirms fundamental rights such as the rights to safety, information, choice, and redress. Prohibited practices outlaws deceptive advertising, false labeling, and unfair sales tactics. Consumer education mandates the integration of consumer education in school curricula and public awareness programs. Consumer complaints mechanism establishes procedures for filing and resolving consumer complaints through designation agency. Implementing agencies. The Department of Trade and Industry, or also known as DTI, is the primary agency responsible for enforcing the provisions of the Act. For specific sectors, other agencies like the Department of Health or DOH oversee compliance, particularly concerning food, drugs, cosmetics, and hazardous substances. This law ensures the businesses treat consumers fairly and honestly. It lays down the rules for selling products and services to make sure they are safe, properly labeled, and not misleading. It also gives consumers the tools and legal hacking to complain or take actions if they are wronged. Key points: consumer rights. The law outlines 8 fundamental rights of consumers: right to basic needs, access to essential goods and services, right to safety protection from dangerous or harmful products, right to information to get complete and truthful details about what you're buying, right to choose, freedom to pick from your choice or options at fair prices, right to representation, a say in how policies affecting consumers are made, right to redress, ability to get refund, replacement, or compensation, right to consumer education, learning about your rights and how to use them, right to a healthy environment, living in a safe and clean environment, product safety and standards. Products sold must meet certain safety standards. Dangerous products are not allowed in the market. Labeling and packaging. All consumers must be clearly labeled with accurate information, ingredients, instructions, manufacturer details, expiration dates, and etc. Fair trade practices. The law bans deceptive and unfair sales tactics like false advertising, hidden charges, and bait and switch schemes. Warranties and repairs. It requires warranties on consumer goods and outlines how and when you can ask for repairs, replacement, or refunds. Credit transactions. If you're buying on installment or through loans, this law ensures you're not misled by unclear or abusive credit terms. The law assigns enforcement to DTI, DOH, or DA. DTI, or also known as Department of Trade and Industry, General Consumer Products. DOH, or Department of Health, Health Products like food and medicine. And Department of Agriculture is agricultural goods. In short, Republic Act 7394 exists to protect consumers from abuse, provide them with accurate information, and give them legal support if they are harmed by unsafe or unfair business practices. Republic Act 7394, Title 1, Consumer Products Quality and Safety, to protect consumers from products that may pose health and safety risks. The key provisions of Title 1 establish mandatory safety standards for consumer products, requires product testing before market release, govern the use of banned or hazardous substances. Manufacturers must recall unsafe products and notify consumers. Second, Title Food, Drugs, Cosmetic, and Devices, to ensure that consumables and health-related products are safe, effective, and properly labeled. Regulates labeling, packaging, and advertising of food, drugs, cosmetic, and medical devices. Prohibits false or misleading claims. Products must meet safety and efficacy standards, supervised by the Department of Health or DOH and Food and Drug Administration or FDA. Title number 3 is Hazardous Substances. To prevent harm from toxic or dangerous chemicals, classifies and control hazardous household substances, requires proper labeling, including warning and first aid instructions. requires child-resistant packaging for poisonous items, bans substances proven to be unsafe even with precaution. Next, Title 4, Product Labeling and Fair Packaging. To ensure consumers receive accurate and adequate product information, labels must display name, ingredients, weight or volume, expiration date, and manufacturer information. Packaging must be honest and misleading. Products must meet standard measurements, units, and specification. Title 5, Advertising and Sales Promotion. To protect consumers from false advertising and deceptive promotion, ads must be truthful, clear, and misleading. Regulates discounts, offers, raffles, and promotional campaigns. Requires approval from DTI for certain sales promotions. Misleading testimonials or exaggerated claims are prohibited. Title 6, Consumer Credits Transactions to promote fairness in lending and credit. Credit terms must be disclosed clearly. Interest, rates, fees, and penalties. Prohibits unfair collections practices, harassments, threats. Encourages responsible borrowing and lending. 7. Trade and industry practices. To ensure fair and honest business practices in the market, regulates warranties, returns, and repairs, mandates clear pricing and receipts, penalizes deceptive trade practices, for example, selling substandard goods, support the right to replacement or refund under valid complaints. Title 8, Consumer Complaints and Redress. To provide mechanisms for consumers to seek justice and compensation. Consumers can file complaints with government agencies like DTI, DOH, and FDA. Establishes mediation and arbitration procedures, encourages speedy and just resolution of disputes, provides for administrative sanctions against violators. And that's all about Republic Act of and that's all about Republic Act number 7394, the Consumer Act of the Philippines. Thank you, everyone.
Labor Code Presidential Decree Number 442. Presidential Decree Number 442, more commonly known as the Labor Code of the Philippines, is a comprehensive piece of legislation that governs all aspects of employment and labor relations in the country. Issued in 1974 during the Marcos administrations, this decree aimed to unify, codify, and streamline various labor and social laws into a single legal framework. Its overarching objectives are to promote gain employment, ensure fair treatment of workers, develop human resources, and achieve industrial peace through mechanism rooted in social justice. The Labor Code is divided into several books, each focusing on K-labor issues such as recruitment and placement of workers, working conditions, employees' benefits, labor standards, labor relations, and post-employment rights. It details the responsibilities of both employers and employees, laying out rules for hiring, working hours, wages, benefits, occupational health and safety, and dispute resolution and processes. So, additionally, the code empowers the Department of Labor and Employment, that's called DOLE, like DOLE, to enforce its provisions and to ensure that labor practices comply with national standards. It also establishes institutions like the National Labor Relations Commission, like NLRC, to adjudicate disputes and uphold workers' rights. So, overall, Presidential Decree number 442 plays a vital role in protecting Filipino workers and fostering a balanced and just labor environment that supports both economic development and human dignity. So, again, Presidential Decree number 442, or the Labor Code of the Philippines, is more than just a law. It's the backbone of the country's labor system, enacted in 1974. It addressed the growing need for a structured set of rules. So governing employer like employee, the relationships at the time, labor laws were scattered across different acts, so creating confusion and inconsistency. The decree brought everything together to ensure clarity and consistency in labor enforcement. So why the labor code was created? So the country was facing a period of industrial growth, and yet workers were still vulnerable to abuse. Low wages, long working hours, unsafe working conditions, and arbitrary dismissals. The government needed a tool to protect workers while also encouraging economic development. Thus, the labor code was crafted with three main goals. So, the promote full and decent employment, like protect workers' rights, ensure industrial peace based on social justice. And so here's the key features and books of the labor code. So book 1, the pre-employment, regulates the equipment and placement, especially for overseas Filipino workers, like the OFWs. Introduces rules for private employment in agencies to prevent illegal recruitment and trafficking. And now, the Book 2, Human Resources Development, promotes skills training and apprenticeship to help workers become more employable. So, supports employment services to match job seekers with available jobs. And here's now the Book 3. So, Book 3, Conditions of Employment, set labor standards like 8 hours work days, overtime pay, rest days and holidays, service incentive, leave. So, ensures human working conditions and proper compensation. So, for the Book 4, health, safety, and social welfare benefits. So, requires employees to provide a safe workplace. Mandates employee converge under SS, PhilHealth, and other benefits. addresses maternity leave, sickness, benefits, and employee compensation. So for the Book 5, Labor Relations, recognizes the right to form labor unions, allows collective bargaining and peaceful strikes. So, and prevents unfair labor practices by both employers and unions. Establishes National Labor Relations na commission like NLRC for dispute settlement. So, and now the Book 6, Post-Employment. So, details valid grounds for employee termination, just and authorized causes. Ensures due process is dismissal. Explains retirement and separations paid. And the Book 7, Transitionary and Final Provisions, contains legal procedures, rule-making authority, and enforcement mechanism. So, how it affects everyone? So, employees, they gain protection from unfair treatment. For instance, if someone is illegally terminated, they can file a complaint with DOLE of the NLRC. Employers, it provides a clear legal structure for hiring, managing, and terminating workers. So, preventing potential legal issues. Government, it uses the code to encourage economic productivity while safeguarding social justice. And for the modern implications, while the labor code was progressive for its time, it has since faced calls for reform, and many labor groups argue that some provisions favor employers or are outdated, especially in the context of contract work or undue. So, end of the word of undue, it's end of contract scheme. So, that's what it's called. Over time, amendments and new labor laws have been passed to address changing economic realities and technological advancements. And the Labor Code of the Philippines through Presidential Decree number 442 remains a living document, meaning it involves with the needs of the workforce and society. Its existence ensures that balance, equity, and protection are given all parties in the labor sector. It's a crucial part of how the Philippines build a more human, justice, and productive economy. So, the Labor Code of the Philippines, a law of protection, justice, and national progress. The Labor Code of the Philippines, enacted as Presidential Decree.
Hi, my name is Erica Rivera, and now what I will report is a Presidential Decree number 422, Labor Code of the Philippines. Number 1, fundamental principles behind the Labor Code. At Insecure, the Labor Code is guided by key labor principles. Security of tenure workers cannot be dismissed without a valid causes and due process. equal work, equal pay. There should be no discrimination in pay or employment terms based on gender, age, religion. Right to recognize employees have the right to form or join unions and participate in collective bargaining. Humans' working condition. This includes rest periods, safety measures, and benefits to protect workers' health and dignity. These principles are in line with international labor standards such as those of International Labor Organization ILO, which the Philippines is member of. Number 2. Enforcement and implementation. The Department of Labor and Employment DOLE plays a key role in implementing the labor code. It conducts inspections of establishment to ensure compliance. It settles minor dispute through its conciliation and mediation service. It educates employers and workers on their rights and duties. Meanwhile, the National Labor Relations Commissions and LRC service as a quasi-judicial body that handles serious labor disputes, including illegal dismissal cases and unfair labor practices. Despite this structure, implementation faces challenges. Limited manpower of DOLE inspectors, delay resolutions of cases in the NLRC, lack of awareness among workers about their rights. Number 3. Real-world applications. Let's take an example. Case number 1. Illegal dismissal. A factory worker is fired without writing notice or a hearing under the labor code. This is a violation of security. The worker can file a complaint, and if proven, the employer must reinstate the worker or pay separation and pay and damages. Case 2. Underpayment of wages. A minimum wage earner receives less than the minted regional wage. The Labor Code protects the right, and DOLE can sanction the employer and recovery unpaid wages. Union busting. Employees from union and the company related by firing union leaders. This is an unfair labor practices, and labor code provides protection and legal recourses. Number 4. Evaluation and modern relevance. Written in 1974, the labor code is still largely in use today. However, many amendments and additional laws have been passed to keep up with the modern work trends, such as the Telecommunicating Act RA 1165, recognizing work from home setups, expanded maternity leave law, extends paid leave to 105 days, anti-encoded campaign target short-term contractualization abuse. This reflects the government's ongoing attempt to balance flexibility in labor market with the worker protection. Number 5. Racism and reform proposal. It's about labor groups and civil society have raised several issues with the labor code. Favoring employees is some procedural provision. Ambiguity is defining contractual work. Lack of provisions of emerging work models like gig and platform workers. Reform advocates call for stronger enforcement mechanism. Updated labor definition to include freelance and digital workers. Faster resolutions of disputes through digital system. Summary. Why PD for Tutu still matters. The Labor Code remains a foundational law that affects millions of Filipinos, both in the private sector and abroad. It guarantees fairness in the workplace and provides tools to settle disputes peacefully. However, to stay relevant, it must continue evolving with the changing landscape of work, especially as digitalization, migration, and global trade redefine labor system, and protection are given to all parties in the labor sector. It's a crucial part of how the Philippines builds a more humanity, just, and productive economy.
I'm Carla Jane Campo. I will be presenting the Local Government Code of 1991 outlines the framework for local governance in the Philippines, emphasizing local autonomy, self-reliance, and accountability. This is a summary of its key chapters and sections. Book 1, General Provisions of Basic Principles. Chapter 1, The Code, Policy, and Application. Section 1, the Act is known as the Local Government Code of 1991. Section 2, declares the state's policy to promote local autonomy and consultation with local government units, also known as the LGUs. Section 3, establish principles of decentralizations including efficient power allocation and private sector involvement. Section 4, applies to all political subdivisions and relevant national officials. Section 5, encourage liberal interpretation of local government powers. Chapter 2, general powers and attributes of local government units. Section 6 to 10, discuss the establishment, division, merger, and abolitions of LGUs, requiring plebiscites for boundary changes. Section 11 to 23, outline LGUs' responsibilities, including providing basic services, exercising eminent domain, and managing resources. Section 24 to 25, detail corporate powers including property acquisitions and the ability to secure grants. Chapter 3, intergovernmental relations. Section 26 to 33, define the relationship between national and local governments, emphasizing national supervision and the need for consultation on projects. Chapter 4, relations with peoples and non-governmental organizations. Section 34 to 36, encourage collaboration between LGUs and NGOs for local development and service provision. Chapter 5, local prequalification, bids, and award committee. Section 37 to 38, establish the local PBAC for contractor for qualification and bidding processes. Title 2, elective officials. Chapter 1, qualifications and elections. Section 39 to 43, set qualifications, disqualifications, and election procedures for local officials. Chapter 2, vacancies and succession. Sections 44 to 47, outline procedures for filling permanent and temporary vacancies in local office. Chapter 3, local legislation. In section 48 to 59, define local legislative powers, procedures for ordinance approval, and the veto power of local executives. Chapter 4, disciplinary actions. Section 60 to 68, establish grounds for disciplinary actions against local officials and the process for administrative complaints. Chapter 5, recall. In section 69 to 75, detail the process for recalling local officials, including initiation and limitations. Title 3, human resources and development. In section 76 to 97, address the organizational structure, staffing, and administrative procedures for local government personnel. Title 4, local school boards. Section 98 to 101 establish local school boards to manage educational needs and budgets. Title 5 Local Health Boards. Section 102 to 105 create local health boards to advise on health matters and propose budgets. Title 6 Local Development Councils. Section 106 to 115 mandate the formation of councils to create development plans and monitor projects. Title 7 Local Peace and Order Council. Section 116 establish local peace and order councils in every locality. Title 8 Autonomous Special Economic Zone. Section 117 requires local government approval for establishing special economic zones. Title 9 Other provisions applicable to local government units. Chapter 1 Settlement of Boundary Disputes. Section 118 to 119 outline jurisdiction and appeal process for boundary disputes. Chapter 2 Local Initiatives and Referendum. Section 120 to 127 define local initiatives and referendums, allowing voters to propose or reject ordinance with specific procedures and limitations. In short, this code serves as a comprehensive guide for the governance and administration of local government units in the Philippines, promoting local autonomy while ensuring accountability and public participation.